you were educated at the Technical University in Delft, and then you started writing about architecture, and now you're director of one of the most influential internet
website.
Website, yeah. Website on architecture in Holland, and doing many other things. Was it a strange way in your career being educated as an architect and ending where you are now?
No, not really. And actually, I still consider myself to be an architect, and I also produced real buildings, and also already during my studies, I worked as teaching, and I already wrote things. So when when I finally ended my studies after 10 years, which was possible then. It was the early 80s, and there was no work for anybody at all. So really my generation had to invent its own work. And in my case, I kept on teaching for a little bit. I kept on writing for a little bit, just to earn money. But also my brother was working for a contractor, and he gave me a commission. So from that moment on, I have this three-prong approach. Each year I wanted to build something, each year I wanted to write a book, and each year something else, something nice and funny. These buildings, they started up huge, and they ended up with small interior design things, like cafes and shops, because I couldn't handle that on my own anymore. The books was easy, one book a year, sometimes a real book, sometimes just working with somebody on a book. It was also easy, and I'm still doing that. And the first couple of years, the other nice, serious, fun thing would be an exhibition or whatever. And then one of those serious, fun things was, well, let's start a website on architecture, and that really got out of hand, seriously. So now this fills up more than half of my time, which was never intended. Well, look, it is also architecture. Writing is architecture. Having conversations with you is architecture. I consider it all to be architecture in a way.
But looking back on a career like that, maybe you found out that there was a lack in your education. You found out new things, and maybe you thought on the way up to here that one should be taught things like that instead of experiencing yourself within 10 or 20 years.
No, there was no lack in education. Education is itself doesn't stop when you leave the university. It actually starts then. What you learn at university is to learn. What you should learn, by the way, is to unlearn things and relearn things, and that's what you do after you leave school. So the real school is in practice, in doing things.
But when you're saying you got to unlearn things, is that to be explained as you're learning the wrong things?
No, not sometimes, yes, but I mean, the situation and the context within which you are working is changing constantly. And at school, it is a totally artificial context you're working in. There's no money involved. The first thing and the first project I did in my first years was that the teacher said, you are going to design a building, but don't mind the money. And I thought, how can that be? Somebody has to pay for this building. No, this is education. That money is not a problem. And the first thing you learn after you leave is that money is the problem, of course. And that's what you learn in practice.
So you say the education will never end, because in the practice you see that other things are more important than the things you learn. Is that to be explained as an education can never fulfill any wish, any need of a society?
No, that's not the question. This is a totally irrelevant question. Society is learning. University is society. It is a sort of an artificial condition in which to learn, to think, to learn to solve problems in a certain way, and that's it. And that goes on. If it doesn't go on, that's why in the Netherlands now they are forcing the architects to have some sort of a teaching next to their practice, because otherwise they're not allowed to call themselves architects anymore, which is total rubbish. You learn every day. Now I'm learning now. So why these 6 hours of official, he's here there now, he's next, ask him. Why is that?
But for me the question, if you say you learn at an education to learn, so there is an everlasting thing we have to learn, but the society changes. Like you said, when you finish your studies there was no work at all, so you had to find out ways of expressing the things you had learned, but coming out with the ideas, your personal ideas, your personal being in the society.
Yeah, but that was the same when I was studying. That didn't change. Actually, the real thing I learned in university was how to organize a party for a huge crowd of people. Now, really, it is the famous Bouwkendefeest, which is now called piet, and which is a party for 4,000 people in one night, and lots of bands and all the beer going on. And what I learned there was first of all, to work within a group of people, and second of all, to organize things. And that is what you do in practice. You organize a building process. That is what you do. But that is not what really is taught in let's say, the design studios. But I learned that at university, because of the university, that was my education. That was there also. You pick what you got and you go on doing that. It's just a silly paper that you receive when you leave.
Yeah, but with organizing parties when you're young, you want to have a party, so you know the program, you know the brief exactly what is needed, because you're doing it for the people who are the same like you. But if we turn around the question and not start with our idea of how we should act, but the society, what it needs, then it might be completely different. Maybe they have another definition of an architect.
There's only maybe 1 promille of the architects who can force their will upon the client. The rest of us, we either we don't build or we work with the client. So it's a necessity. You do not need to wait for that. You cannot build otherwise. So you don't even have to learn that, it just happens, or you don't build at all.
So in that sense, how would the faculty of architecture be defined by you? What's your ideal in that sense?
Now I think what is actually these faculties, this plural of what is missing in practice and what is not taught at the university. What is not taught at the university is to undo things that have been done before, and actually all acts of creation are also acts of demolishment. You uncreate something when you create something, and we are not taught how to take away things. We are not taught what happens before when we start building. The act of building is actually to add things, stuff to what is already there.
Do you literally mean add stuff by material?
That is what we are told. To add stuff, to stack bricks upon bricks, to columns, pediments on columns, etc., etc. But actually, what we should learn is to take away, to liberate some sort of a space. Let's say what we are taught is the primitive hut of Logier, which is there's this tree and there's this pediment and etc., etc. That's the famous primitive hut all architects like and love, because that's addition. But there's another one, which is the cave, in which you take out stuff from material from what is already there, and then you let's say produce space. You do not produce stuff, you produce space. And what we should learn is to produce space, like some sort of liberties, because we cannot go on stacking built stuff upon the world after another. We have to learn to at least disassemble it and reassemble it in new configurations, and that is not taught at schools at all. First lesson should be to take away. First you take away, and then maybe you add something after that.
So you're talking about like the work of a sculptor who takes away, and in the end there's
the famous quote by Michelangelo. I see this block of stone, and then I only hew away the parts I don't need, and then there's this thing. But actually, what he's saying, it's already in there. It's already in there. But actually, what it is not really the same, because what Michelangelo produced after that is a physical thing that is not being changed at all anymore. What you should do, and it's now liberty. it's the thing there. There's maybe certain interpretations by personal interpretation by you, but that's the only liberty that is left. What we should do is to take away and increase the possibilities instead of decreasing them onto one perfect thing. So that's unbuilding.
Unbuilding, but it has to do with historical awareness as well, because unbuilding has to do with the things that are already built, with the whole cultural concept of a city, for example.
Yeah. It's actually it teaches you. It is not that you only have to unbuild. You have to be aware that at least half of our work is undoing things. It is the yin and yang of life, maybe even, because in order to create, you have to decrease other things. It is to open and close, etc. That is unbuilding and building. And maybe the only superior thing beyond that, let's also end with a Zen-like question, is to not do anything at all, to not build. Cedric Price once famously said that sometimes the real solution to an architectural problem is no architecture at all. And his example was a client who came to him and said, I want to build you a house for me and my wife because we have marriage problems, and maybe with this house our marriage will come together again. And his architectural solution then was get a divorce. So don't build, don't do this, do nothing. He didn't got to pay his bill for that, of course, but it was really the most intelligent answer to this architectural question. Hardly anybody, any architect dares to say that, dares to say to his client, don't do it, it's not necessary. Go rent a building somewhere, it's empty there, don't build your own. We are really not, we don't get paid for it either, so that's a problem, of course. Maybe we should send bills for not doing things. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what John Cormeling once did. He sent a bill for not building and making a design for anything. But with that insight, you're hitting one of the most actual issues in architecture, that we are spending and we're demolishing the world by using material. Has it to do with durability in that sense, or?
Sustainability. Actually, the talk yesterday was about what is beyond merely the sustainable, and then you have to think in time and in cycles. So, and this cycle is, well, I build, but first I take away, or I disassemble and I reassemble. I disassemble, I reassemble. So it's all these cycles going like that and that and that, and maybe there helix go up a bit. And that's what it is. So architect, that's another thing you have to unlearn as an architect, is that the product you make is not a physical object, it is a process in space. And the object just makes these processes possible. But we are still, although there's a lot of awareness about it, that architecture should be or is process-based, time-based, etc., etc., still architects think in a finished product. Actually, the life of a building starts when it's finished. So the architect, they take the photographs and they move on. And then that is when the real life of a building starts. And that's when things are taken out, things are added and taken out and added. So you undo this fucking kitchen that is there and redo your own kitchen. And that you already start undoing it when you're living in your new home.
So what will be your goal for the next 10 years, Piet?
To have serious fun.
Okay, I think that's the best conclusion of this conversation. Thank you very much.